Where's my spider?
This is how we're all connected and we are doing things on spiders. And if it had been good, I mean, if it had been like, wow, that was interesting take, I would have been there. But no, it's just
The name is...
I think a lot of us are hoping that Sony has kind of reached a tipping point with their incompetence.
No, I think the same thing. Spider.
So you actually went and saw...
Oh, I saw Madame Web. That is both the blessing and the curse of having Regal Cinema's Unlimited app. There is nothing keeping me from going to see anything. I'm like, well, it's a comic book movie. I should go see Madame Web. And I knew it would be bad because the press was immediate. Like the immediate response was, this is garbage. You can't fault the casting except for the villain guy. Woo, boy, that guy. And it seems like he's dubbed almost the entire movie.
I came from nothing, less than nothing. I will not give up.
But I don't even know if that's the actor's actual voice, because every time you see him, it's like, did they go in with ADR after?
I agreed to provide security for you because I thought you were close to finding the spider.
The worst thing is, of course, the writing. The directing is the effects are whatever, but they're not terrible, but the writing is just stupid.
You're just like your mother.
Yes, I am.
There's a line where the villain goes, they have my spider. I must get back my spider.
Where's my spider? They took my spider.
Jesus.
The line rating couldn't have been that good as you did it right now.
Yeah.
Spider.
Here's the thing. Spider. And then it becomes a They Might Be Giants song.
Spider. Get rid of
Gibbity.
Yeah. He is our hero. And that's actually, they should have used that,
Yeah, that would
in
be
the
awesome.
soundtrack.
You won't be so lucky next time.
They changed the origin. And again, if it's Marvel Studios, when they tweak, generally speaking, the ratio has been very high of well thought out changes. This is Sony. And Sony has not treated their Spider-Man properties very well.
I'm not sure how I got here. Has to do with Spider-Man, I think.
Madame Web in the comics is a mutant. Her origins are mysterious when she first shows up, and then later on they say she was born with these precognitive abilities. The web thing is completely the motif because she sees fate as these strands, as webs, but her powers are not spider-based. Spider-Man happens to use her as an ally, and she's awesome, but she didn't get bitten by a radioactive spider. Oh, no. In this movie, they take some of Jessica Drew, aka Spider-Woman, who's not in this story, but they take a little bit of her admittedly batshit origin and put it on Madame Web. She was born to a woman who was a spider researcher, and she's in the Amazon, and she gets betrayed by the man who talks like this.
Do you think we're close?
The bad guy who shoots her, and she's pregnant already. And then, oh, hold on to your. Are you holding on? I can't see your hands. Are you holding on? Okay. Then a group of spider people.
Las arañas.
Las arañas?
Who are folklorish, mythological spider people who look just like normal people, but they're painted red and they've covered themselves in like these black vines to look kind of like the Spider-Man outfit from years to come. But they arrive to save her, and they take her down into a cave, and they put her in mystical water, and they let their spider, which is this mystical spider, the one she'd been looking for, bite her. And that should heal her, but she's too far gone. She does die, but the baby is born. That is Cassandra Webb. And if it had been good, I mean, if it had been like, wow, that was interesting take, I would have been there, but no, it's just bullshit.
Yeah.
And me and John were literally kind of cracking up at the spider people. It's like, oh no, really? Ugh.
There's been so much, the YouTube nerddom has been just a fire over how bad this movie is. Everybody's just fascinated. I mean, literally fascinated at how horrible it is.
Yes.
And also just kind of frustrated because we're kind of, I think a lot of us are hoping that Sony has kind of reached a tipping point with their incompetence.
No, I think the same thing.
This goes way. This is kind of like what Fox was doing with Fantastic Four for many years, which we'll get into in a minute.
Yes, it's the legal
where
thing.
They're just saying, well, we got to make a movie to hold on to the rights. So we'll do something decent with it eventually, but not right now.
Every 3.5 years, they have to release a Spider-Man verse movie to keep the rights. And the only people at Sony, and this is often the case, it's the case very often at Warner Brothers too, the only people who are there who seem to be passionate about getting it right and love the stuff are the animators. Because Spider-Verse, both movies are the best superhero movies like ever, and some of the best, obviously, Spider-Man movies ever. They're great. That's also Sony, but it's Sony Animation. And what's usual is that the big studio sees the animators as like the weird nerds. They leave them alone. Warner Brothers, the best DC product we've had for decades has been the animation side. Yeah. Because again, you've got real passionate like comic nerds over there, and the studio doesn't care. They're like, we'll release them whenever you're ready. So they're not paying attention to it. Live action is all they care about. But the live action, they don't get right at all. They don't get right at all. Venom has both the Venom movies. I'm not a fan of the character, never really been a huge Venom fan. But I'll say that they're goofy, weird. Okay, I'll accept them. But we've got Kraven coming up, and no one gives a shit. And I like the actors in that too, but I can't imagine it's going to be good. Yeah. They've talked about a Black Cat movie or a Silver Sable movie or a Black Cat and Silver Sable movie, and you're like, they're both good characters. Do something with them. But again, people aren't sitting there going like, when am I getting my Aunt May movie?
Well, and the thing is too, this Corey Coleman on Double Toasted brought this up, and I thought it was a really good point, that it's not the fact, you already said it pretty much. It's not because Madam Web is a B-list or C-list, D-list, whatever list you want to put her on.
Well, she is a C-list character, but that's not because she's not cool. She should never be thrown to the spotlight.
Well, his point was Guardians of the Galaxy was not a well-known comic.
Yes.
And that has turned into a sensation because of the great writing and directing that James Gunn did. That was a stroke of genius. That wasn't even his idea. I think it was it Kevin Feige who suggested that to him? It's like, I want you to do Guardians. Maybe. I don't think because James has said in the interview, he knew nothing about the Guardians when the project was first
That's right. Yes.
And then he fell in love with it, obviously. Mm-hmm. So if you have a really talented writer, it doesn't really matter which character you're telling the story of. If Sony wants to tell stories about these weird characters, great, but hire some good writers, man.
When you see, there are like 4 or 5 credited screenwriters on this. Hold on while I look up their names. John was being more forgiving. He saw the mess of the writing as being indicative of how many writers they have, and that is true.
Well, that's part of the problem, yeah.
But another part is the writers, and I specifically pointed out this one guy. Now I will point him out, and his name is Matt Sazama. And Matt Sazama is one of the main writers on Madame Web. If you look at his body of work, it's terrible. And I did look over to John at one point and I said, John, and he goes, what? And I was like, why am I poor? Because the thing is that he probably does. The guy, you can watch this movie and go, he's read his Sid Field. He knows where plot points are supposed to go. This is put together in a fairly logical sequence, but the writing is awful. There are lines that are so on the nose stupid.
That does sound like me.
That I felt bad for Dakota Johnson, who she is charming. I mean, the actors around her are all delightful. They're just given terrible material. You know who comes out of this thing unscathed is Adam Scott, who I always love.
You have a winning personality. I guess I got yours by mistake.
You're an asshole.
Yeah, that's right.
The idea of him as Ben Parker, soon or someday to be Uncle Ben, great. He's a natural fit. So yes, since this is all prequel, you get all that stuff. But this guy, Matt Sazama, he did Dracula Untold, which was the origin movie of Dracula that they were Universal's trying its dark universe. They were trying to build a shared universe of its classic monsters. Terrible. Last Witch Hunter, that was the one he did with Vin Diesel. Gods of Egypt, one of the worst big budget epics.
It's so frustrating. These are all great sounding titles. Like,
Power Rangers. He did the Power Rangers movie in 2017. He is one of the guys behind, this is the only thing I did actually like, the reboot of Lost in Space. He actually did pretty much craft that, developed by, and he's given the creator credit. So that's good. But then Morbius, and then Madam Web.
Yeah.
It's like Sony, and I think most of those, including Gods of Egypt, I think, except for Dracula Untold, there are a lot of Sony things. They just keep going back to him like, oh, he's a guy. He can do that genre shit. And again, the passion is not there because the story is so fucking stupid. And Dakota Johnson interviews is like going, yeah, the script...
You tricked me.
Yeah, it's like when I signed on, it was a different script. And I was very excited to do it. Oops.
Yeah, and she fired her agent right after the trailer came out.
Oh, right? They did cut that line. The line that everyone jumped on, the really ridiculous line. It's not in the movie.
What was that? Just like I Rebel.
This is a rebellion, isn't it? I rebel.
It was the one where in the trailer for Madam Web, it's something like,
He was in the Amazon with my mom when she was researching spiders right before she died.
It was like this ridiculously long expositional sentence that is so stupid that people jumped on it. And then it became a meme because people are going, oh yeah, no, those are the same donuts I ate when I was in the Amazon studying spiders.
Are you pressing the burgers?
I think most people come out of this okay. I say Tahar Rahim, who plays Ezekiel, the villain, is bad.
My road was not as clear as yours.
But Isabella Merced, who played Anya, who ended up being Arana, which is a spider character from the late 90s. And then you got Sydney Sweeney playing Julia Carpenter, or Cornwall as they call her in this movie, who's a spider woman eventually, and Celeste O'Connor plays Maddie Franklin, who ended up being a spider girl. The thing is, this wasn't a big deal for me, but I saw some people online going, if I'm going to go see a movie with a bunch of superheroines, they better be in those suits. They're only in the suits in the flash forwards. That's the whole thing, is that Madame Web sees their futures. They don't have powers in this movie. They only do in the future because they're not spider people yet. And so, yeah, you only see like a couple of seconds of them in their respective outfits. And then at the end, and you're like, okay, here they're just playing teenagers. And Madame Web's like, kids today, I can't stand them.
Enough. Your voices are like drilling in the center of my skull, and I need to think.
All that jibber jabber they're talking. You'd think it was 2003 or something. At one point, Britney Spears' Toxic comes on. I was like, yeah, we knew that was coming. Thank you. But anyway, so it's not good. I felt bad for the actors. It does this whole like subplot about Ben Parker goes, I've met someone. I think she's the one. There's never a Marissa Tomei cameo. We never hear the name May mentioned. He's also dealing with his sister-in-law, Mary, because his brother Richard is on a world trip. In the comics, the Parkers were secret agents. I know, that's always been a kind of stupid thing. Peter's parents were secret agents, and that's how they ended up dying, and then Aunt May and Uncle Ben had to raise them.
Oh.
But in this,
is that the original origin, or is that one of the revised?
Well, that was later, but it became canon.
I guess they the Andrew Garfield
yes,
Spider-Man
they were leaning into that.
Kind of ran with that a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So in this, we don't see Richard, but we see Mary, who is Emma Roberts, and she's pregnant. So the whole thing is like all these hints about the boy, and there's a baby shower that Madame Web is at, and they're like, what are you going to name him? And she goes, well, we're thinking it's going to be...
The name is...
And then like a balloon pops. I'm like, guys, we know it's Peter Parker, so stop. This is just stupid. Let's be coy. And yes, Madame Web, if it weren't for her, Peter wouldn't have even been born. She saves the day. So anyway, it's bullshit. And at the end, they do like a hero pose of like, I will be there protecting, because this is her origin story. At the end of it, she is blind and she is in a chair. She's in a red outfit. She doesn't have the gray hair, so she's she looks good. But anyway, and then they're standing around her in their costumes, and she's like going, this is how we're all connected, and we are doing things in spiders. And there is no button scene, so don't stick around through the credits.
Did Sony just get lucky with Sam Raimi for those first 2 Spider-Man movies?
Yes.
I mean, the first Andrew Garfield movie wasn't bad.
It's not bad. And again, he's great. Emma Stone is great.
What happened to those franchises? Why did they keep fumbling the ball? And I guess maybe that was just par for the course for superhero movies there for a long time until
it is kind of true. But I will say this, Sony, it's like you're saying, you would think they would have learned their lesson. The reason the first 2 Spider-Mans worked so well is Sam Raimi. Passion for the character. He's loved it his whole life. He is a kinetic, great director. Perfect choice, good cast. He stuck to the source material. People were happy. Yeah, organic web shooters. Whatever. We'll get past it. But the first 2, the studios left them alone, and they were making huge money. Third one is where the studio goes, by the way, we have notes. And Raimi's like, no. It's going to be Vulture. Maybe Sandman, but yeah, that's it. And they're like, going to be Venom. And he's like, I don't like Venom. It's not a character I like. You've got to put Venom in. So his heart is not in. Yeah, his heart's not in 3. Yeah, so all the weird, wacky shit is probably him just like going,
fuck this.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to do a John Travolta dance section. And you're like, oh, Sam, I'm worried. But the best part of Spider-Man 3 are the things he originally intended. The best part is Sandman. Because you get a great actor, perfectly cast, and there's like an actual emotional core to that character. No one gives a shit about Eddie Brock and Venom except for the 90s comics fans.
That scene, that origin scene where he's first emerging as a Sandman after the accident, and it's like that one sequence of him figuring out how to reform himself is like it's like a short film. It's like a short indie film.
And it's also kind of like a short little horror movie too, because Raimi always, like, you see that in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, which John and I both share this opinion because we've talked about it before. People have dumped on that movie, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, because they're like, oh man, it's Raimi being reined in. And you cannot watch that movie, and because the big thing is that Marvel Studios gets great directors, but then doesn't allow them to be themselves. And I sit there going like, I'm sorry, Ms. Cho over there at Eternals did a Her movie, and I love it. And I'm sorry, but you know, that is a Sam Raimi movie. There's so much Raimi all over Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. It's bizarre. And the horror elements where you're like going, oh, that's disturbing. That's Sam. And I don't think he regretted doing it in a second. That means he's now done the 2 big Steve Ditko characters. Love it. Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. Anyway, so Sony can't help themselves but interfere, and it stinks it up. And I think that Webb, who did the Amazing Spider-Man movies, the Andrew Garfield thing, probably similar. He had a feel for the character, and he loved it. But the rethinking and the rewriting, not so bad in the first one, but that second one, where again, they're like, we've got a big name to be Electro. What are we going to do? Maybe we should look at what the No. Don't worry about the comics. We need to give him this showcase. So it's going to be literally, if you ever saw Batman Forever, they took the Riddler's storyline from that movie and made that Electro. He's a funny little Jim Carrey-ish nerd at the beginning who has a hero worship thing on the hero. And then he gets ignored by him and he goes, oh, I won't be ignored. Then he gets powers. He's like, yeah, I'm feeling it now. I'm like, that's not Electro, and that's just dumb.
Can we call this Superman 3 syndrome? Because that's kind of what it is.
Yeah, the third one.
That's where everything fell apart in the third one.
Well, actually, Amazing Spider-Man didn't get a 3.
Right, but I mean,
that was
it's that aspect of it. Yeah,
where it's like cooking along with gas, and then the studio or somebody knows better. Then the thing is with Feige, it's about quality control and tone control. Sometimes I've got problems with tone with the Marvel movies, like that's where Robin and I fall out, is on the Marvels, which he thought was so delightful. He loves it. I really enjoyed the Marvels. Hell, I bought it. But I enjoyed it a lot, but I thought tonally it was a bad choice. Marvel doesn't always do things perfectly, but it's just the quality control is so good, and someone is Feige or the trusted advisors, they're keeping watch on the properties, saying, "Are we doing it right?"
Mm-hmm.
Man, they just don't care at Sony. They're like, "Get it out. We got to hold on to these characters." I was saying, like, when are we going to get a movie about the 3 models that lived downstairs from Peter Parker during the 80s? They going to get their own movie? Because literally they're going to just fucking run out.
Well, and that's like I was saying, is like I don't really begrudge them for picking weird IP, because
it's true, but they have to do it well.
They have to do it well, and that, if
I'm writing the Pete script because again, it's like exactly. Any character. It is true, and I didn't mean that Madam Web as a C-lister shouldn't have gotten a spotlight. She just needed, if you're going to do that,
if that's their thing,
you've got to nail it. Yeah, do it well.
I mean, that would be great. They could totally own that space and just have it be their weird little world that they're just making bank on because the stories are so good.
Yeah,
but you're right. They just don't seem to care. It's just like the way I was thinking just a few minutes ago. It's like because I've worked in an office environment before. It feels like an office with very talented people in it that has an office manager who is completely incompetent and is just ticking boxes and trying to balance the budget and doesn't care about anything that's actually happening in the office.
There is so much ticking boxes, and there are things about Morbius. There are things about Madam Web that was like, oh, that could have been good. There are some cool visualizations of her powers. The concept is okay. And again, the actors are fine. And you're like, even that's the thing, is that if the foundation is not good, you can't build on it. We said the same thing about the Snyder movies with you've got Henry Cavill, a great Superman. But if the foundations, as in the concept, the story, if that is not good, they can't save it. They can't save it. You've got to have good at every level. And I think there's a lot of like, well, that reads like a script. Go shoot it. We have to have this out. We have to have this out by this date or we lose the rights.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Marvel's sitting there going like, fail, Sony, fail. Fail. Because we will get all the Spidey back. Okay. Yeah. The exciting big news in the nerd world, of which I'd say we belong. We belong to the nerd world. I would say we are native to the nerd world. The big news is that after years of us sitting there going, you're going to tell us who the Fantastic Four are? Marvel dropped the news on Valentine's Day. That was very clever. February 14th. FF, Fantastic Four. Oh! And they even had a specially prepared Valentine card with really great art. We now know our Fantastic Four, which almost all of them had been rumored for a long time. So it was just sort of like them confirming. I'd heard about all these people mentioned.
Yeah, you mentioned Eben Moss-Baccarat.
Yeah.
I think, right?
Yeah. And I think great choice.
I didn't recognize his name, but that's the guy from Andor. That's the thing I remember now.
Oh, yes, he's an Andor.
And he was Micro on
and he was Micro in the Punisher. But after you see him in the Bear, that's what you associate him with forever. The Bear is great TV, and it took me a long time of hearing how amazing it was before I finally was like, all right, I'll watch the show about this cook. Oh, it's great, and he's great in it. And you don't immediately think Ben Grimm, because for one thing, this guy is kind of a tall, rangy dude, and Ben Grimm I always see as like he's stocky. I assume he will be a CG creation, but I think character-wise, he's nailed it. Plus, here's what I do love. Someone did point out, they're like going, listen, here's why Kevin Feige and Marvel do it right. They actually cast a blue-eyed Jewish man to play Ben Grimm. A blue-eyed Jewish man. I'm like going, that's right. Ever-loving blue-eyed thing. We've got him. And they got, what's his name from Stranger Things? Joseph Quinn. He is our Human Torch, and literally Stranger Things is the only thing I've ever seen him in. But I will say the guy pops off the screen. That's why everyone loved him. He was this like side character who gets a great death if you've seen the show. He's got this like youthful energy. He'll be perfect.
Yeah.
As long as they,
I agree.
As long as they give him the blonde hair, which, according to the art, they do.
Apparently they have, yeah.
And you've got Vanessa Kirby, who I love. And I said this because John kept going, it's probably going to be Vanessa Kirby. And I said that she's a good actress. She's great. And yet another Brit who can do American very well. But I was like, she's so cat-like and feline. I was like, she actually, and that's me getting real nitpicky. I'm like, you always expect someone to look very classic Americana blonde for Sue Storm. She actually looks a lot more edgy, just facial features, than what I would imagine Sue Storm. At the same time, I don't care. Great actors. And then Pedro Pascal, the man of not the hour, but the man of apparently the decade, who can do anything, who doesn't even have to dress up as the Mandalorian anymore.
Yeah.
He admitted, he goes, yeah, I'm not in the next season at all, just my voice. It's all the guy in this. He's like, that's kind of relief. But that's also how he's able to do all these big projects. The Last of Us, great. I've never seen him be bad in anything. Wonder Woman 84.
No. Yeah, he was a standout thing about that movie, I think.
Yeah, so now he is Reed Richards. I actually did like the John Krasinski casting, and because he looked so perfect. But we're dealing with a multiverse. So this is our Reed Richards. It seems that they'll probably not waste much time with an origin. And we get Galactus. And apparently they're trying to get Javier Bardem to be Galactus.
Ooh.
Is anyone going to complain about this casting?
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yes. And the artwork, as you pointed out very rightfully, is very 60s. So we are clearly, and that someone zoomed in on the magazine that, is it The Thing is reading in the picture?
It's Life magazine. Yeah.
It's literally a Life
Thing
magazine from 63.
Yeah.
The movie seems to be set in 63 because that's the one with President Johnson on the cover.
It looks like, in the picture too, looking at it now, it looks like Thing and Johnny Storm are cracking jokes about something in the magazine. And Johnny Storm's looking over at him and laughing.
Character dynamics, I mean, we're basing a lot on a production drawing, but at the same time, it's really good. It has this family feel. It has a lightness to it. I don't want Fantastic Four to be a comic romp, but their intrinsic relationship needs to be that.
Yeah.
While they deal with something huge like, well, the universe is in jeopardy because here comes Galactus, I want them to be a family. They did this even in the bad movies. I mean, they had good casting there too, for the most part.
Yeah.
Or at least Johnny and Ben. And they did the prankster stuff that they always do, like, oh, you dick.
Yeah.
While the
that was
thing
one of the better
asleep,
parts.
putting all the whipped cream in his hand, so except smacked himself in the.
I actually rewatched that movie last night.
Oh, you did?
2005. Yeah, Tim Story movie.
Yes.
It's fascinating to watch now because knowing that we're about to get a much better movie. It's a frustrating film because it's, yeah, like you say, they did make some good choices with the casting. The overall tone and fun of the movie is there,
and they give Chickless, a couple of the great like sad thing moments, like him out at the phone booth. I remember that scene.
Yes,
that's good.
There's a lot of great moments with Chickless in this. And he's really, I was going to say, I think he's the
great
best
casting.
thing about it. Yeah,
the best
because he was a fantastic.
Hey, see what I did?
He was a Fantastic Four fan, and I think
he got it. So he knew it.
Yeah. So that the reason why that works so well has a lot to do with him.
Jessica Alba is a studio choice, and she's not. Plus, the idea of her being the older sister of Chris Evans, you're like going, right.
Sure.
What universe is that working in?
But the writing was not that great. The villain, Dr. Doom, I'm sorry, he's terrible.
Awful. It's an awful version. And that actor, Julian McMahon, is that his name? He's good, but he's not that's not the take. Plus, I hate movies, and I include 89 Batman, which I love. But the whole idea that the great villain's origin has to be tied into the hero's origin. I'm like, stop. When you meet your arch enemy, it shouldn't be designed by fate. It should be like you keep butting up against that person. If Batman had never met Jack Napier, the made up thing for the Joker, and had just encountered this guy like they did in Dark Knight, that's much better. than like, oh, I killed your parents. And that thing in the Fantastic Four where instead of just Reed and Doom having been college roommates and all that stuff, which I always did like, but he hasn't seen Doom in years. He went back to Latveria, got the whole mask, all that stuff, and has been blaming Reed for years. I love that. But him being on like whatever that prototype spaceship thing was in the movie that you watched, and him being like, oh no, the cosmic rays made me metal guy.
Yeah, and getting his powers from the same event, that's just
stupid.
Kind of ruins it. And they did the same thing in the Fan Four Stick movie too, didn't they? It's the same thing. Isn't the origin the same? Or not the same origin, but they all get their powers.
Yeah, the same event.
Cause, yeah.
And that just needs to stop.
Yes, please.
My theory is, I mean, they've announced Fantastic Four. They haven't nailed down Galactus. Galactus being a huge character, I would assume we're going to get a Silver Surfer as well. So if you're doing that, I don't want Doom shoehorned in. So I assume Doom is not going to be in this movie except for referred to possibly, and then maybe a button scene of like an armored fist or something going like Richards or whatever. And it's like the way they did Thanos at the end of Avengers, where half the crowd doesn't even know who the fuck that is. And I'm going, the chin! The chin is Thanos! I need to work on my syntax and the way I put sentences together. The chin! Speak to us, Brendan. Speak to us. Thanos!
Yeah, especially since they like we were just saying, they messed up Doom twice, you know.
I think keeping him for like like the second one or the third.
Give the man a break.
And since it's 63, I'm really interested to see if they are on the classic MCU Earth, but back in the past, and then they come to the present, or if they are from a different universe. I have no idea.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. It's been fun listening to all the different theories about how this could play out. I'm kind of conflicted because it would be great if they just stayed in the 60s, if that's where the story does start, which it looks like it does. If they just stayed there, that'd be cool. But I do also kind of want to see them interact with the characters we've already been introduced to. I would love for them to interact with Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I would love for them to interact with Doctor Strange.
God damn it.
And and Bruce Banner and all the, everybody. But
it is tricky. I mean, because they're not going to age them up. That would be really stupid. But so either it's a time jump or it's a universal jump, which we talked about, like how interesting that would be, to where the great thing about the FF, I love the dichotomy of X-Men and FF, because the X-Men have been mutated. I mean, the X-Men are mutants. The FF have been mutated. And the FF, for some reason, as freakish as they are, a stretchy guy and a guy who's all made of rocks, are beloved local figures. Like, they're celebrities, they're known, their secret identities aren't secret. They're like, that's Reed, that's Sue, that's the FF. And that's interesting. So if they show up in a universe that doesn't know them at all, interesting take. Or if they show up in a universe or they show up in a time that's forgotten them, which seems wacky, but could happen. But, obviously the X-Men are hated and feared because they're mutants, and yet they're no weirder than the FF. I hope they do something with that.
Yeah. But I did hear an interesting theory, which I do like, because it would be
cool.
It would definitely be cool, but it would also be economical because they've already introduced this alternate universe that Monica Rambeau got pulled into or trapped in, where the X-Men already exist.
Mm-hmm.
What if the Fantastic Four that we're about to get is in an earlier time, like in this 1960s decade of that universe?
Of that universe. Oh,
yeah.
Well, that'd be awesome. I mean, why not?
I really don't care where they put them, as long as
they're done right.
It makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's so many different ways that it could work. I mean, you and I discussed this theory, which a lot of people have had, of them, like you said, like being in the same timeline, but just having been forgotten or lost for 50 years, whatever it is. like they got lost in time and now they're back and they're like, oh, it's these guys.
I kind of retroactively wish, though, of course, this is all just legal. The only reasons, and Feige's sitting there going like, can't we just say Richards or something? Like, can we drop a reference in? And it's all just been legal until now. Because if Feige had the right in 2008's Iron Man, someone would have gone like, isn't that based on a Richards design? Like, I mean, they would have had that shit. They would have talked about the Baxter building. It would have been in the skyline. So it's annoying that whatever they end up doing will have to be kind of retroactively made to make sense. Because there's no reason Tony Stark would never have mentioned, even if they had been lost for decades, they would have brought up the genius that was Reed Richards or whatever the flight was, if they still have them going up in a rocket and, whatever, in cosmic rays. This excites me. Fantastic Four shouldn't be, but is kind of a hard sell. And it doesn't help when every movie version has gotten it wrong. Mm-hmm. But the hard sell is, again, they have a different feel than almost every one of the other groups. The Avengers is all these awesome individual characters getting together, sniping at each other a little bit, but saving the universe. Fantastic Four is a family, and it has this different tone, and their powers are weird and all that. It's like if you misstep, the whole thing falls apart. Mm-hmm. And the Tim Story movies, I like the animation on Silver Surfer and Rise of the Silver Surfer. There are these little scenes, the chase between the Human Torch and the Silver Surfer, which is lifted directly from the comic. Literally, when the Silver Surfer first showed up, Johnny's like, that guy's really fast. He's not getting away from me. And they did a whole chase scene, and they basically just reproduce it in the film. I'm like, that's what I want. Thank you. Mm-hmm. By the way, could Galactus not be a big nebula cloud? Could that be all right?
Yeah.
I mean, the Eternals literally gave us a Celestial who just stands there in the middle of space, seemingly inches from the Earth. And I'm like going, if they can do that, we can have a guy with a big purple tuning fork on his head.
Yeah, they've kind of laid the groundwork for that already.
Aye.
Guardian. Yeah.
I'm kind of hungry.
Yeah.
Your planet looks tasty. Num num. Is that the name of your planet? Num num? Because that's what my belly's saying. That's my Galactus. That actually was my audition reel that I sent to Feige. I haven't heard back yet.
That's what my belly's saying.
That's what my belly's saying. Rumbly tumbly.
Yeah. I was have to check to see if it's in this.
Yeah, you go ahead and check that out. One of my favorite Galactus, I think I've said this one before too, one of my favorite Galactus stories, just because he is so unknowable. He's this, huge galactic universal big figure. The 80s Hercules miniseries, Hercules Prince of Power, which is a romp, and it was 4 issues. There was an issue where Hercules meets Galactus, and he basically challenges him to a drinking contest. and Galactus takes his helmet off as he's getting drunker. It's pretty great. And I just love that, as far as like, oh yeah, there's still a sentience, an intelligence, a personality underneath all that. But he is doomed to wander the universe, eating planets.
The reason why, I mean, we know that they can nail this because, and I kind of wonder if Kevin Feige this was part of his master plan for moving in the cosmic direction by getting James Gunn to do Guardians first before they move into all this other stuff. So by the time we do get around, because they didn't even have Fox yet at that point.
Right.
So looking ahead to Silver Surfer and Galactus.
Well, I mean, I think it could be stepping stones, but I think he also was just like Marvel, whether or not you're including Fantastic Four, Marvel, much more than DC, though DC has plenty of alien races and mythology in the stars, but it's still very much a golden age set of characters that have had stuff added on. But Marvel from the get-go was cosmic. So they've got Skrull and Kree. They've got, they have so many mythologies and worlds to go to. They even have the negative zone. Oh boy, I hope that Reed Richards mentions the negative zone. I'm a nerd. so they've got all that stuff. And so I'm sure Feige was just like going, hey, what if we use these space characters? Because eventually, you know, the Avengers will end up in space at some point. Who knows? We might even go to the astral realms that Strange goes to. I just love the fact he's like going, we don't have to stay in New York. Go crazy, man. It's Marvel. You can go wherever the fuck. Though, to date, we have yet to get any project set in the Savage Land. No Kazar. And I'm sad. There's a little part of me that's sad.
That is something I know very little about.
Well, it's it's a little cheesy, but it's just that prehistoric jungle land that's in the Antarctic or like the North Pole. Like there's a little, it's sort of a hollow earth kind of thing. And it's like, oh my God, the atmosphere has changed. And now it's a sweltering jungle that has dinosaurs in it. And Kazar is basically a total Tarzan rip because he's a British nobleman who ended up being abandoned there as a child. And now he is Kazar. And his name is Lord Plunder. Lord Plunder.
That's his real name?
Kevin
Lord Plunder?
Yes. Kevin Plunder. And but he becomes Kazar. He has a saber-toothed tiger as his best buddy. It's, you know, it's cheesy, but the X-Men have gone there a million times. Spider-Man's ended up in the Savage Land. And the Fantastic Four have been there many a time. And it's where you get Sauron, who's a mutant guy, who's a pterodactyl man who has vampire powers.
Yeah. Why not?
Comics are nuts, man.
That's great.
I'm excited by everything. Is that true? It's just next year is going to be. Guys, don't even listen to our podcast for like several months because this year's nothing, but next year's crazy.
Next year's crazy. Well, we got Deadpool 3 to look forward to before then, and
great trailer.
Because like the trailer came out since before or after the last time we talked.
Yeah, during the Super Bowl, I think.
I had no idea. I knew Wolverine was coming.
Yeah.
In this, I had no idea the TVA was going to be part of this.
Me either. Until I saw the trailer.
I'm really intrigued to see what they're going to do with this and whether any of it is actually going to be impactful on the canon. Because he seems to be insinuating that they're going to fix the MCU. You know, he says, "I am Marvel Jesus" in the trailer, which I fucking love.
And then looks to the camera.
And people have been theorizing. Yeah, people have been theorizing that the reason why the TVA has grabbed him is because of his fourth wall breaking ability that he knows
that he
things,
is aware. Yeah.
And they need him for some reason.
Yes. You know? The rumor is like he'll show up and fix the Tim Story movie or something and like go, that didn't happen. But I love it. And Wolverine, one last go with Jackman. I don't think this should be a thing where it's like, hey, 69-year-old man, could you come back and be Wolverine one more time? But yeah, it looks great.
Because I rewatched, after I saw the trailer, I rewatched Deadpool, and I'd never seen Deadpool 3. Or sorry, Deadpool 2. I'd never seen the second one.
Oh,
surprisingly, I was like, did I never see that? So yeah, I love both of them.
I love the whole setting up of X-Force, and then they all die.
Yeah, right.
It's like, I was like, oh no, I never liked this character. It's like, oh great, he went into a shredder. Oh, okay, great.
I didn't realize it until I saw this movie.
Except for Domino's.
I think James Gunn totally stole that idea for the beginning of the Suicide Squad.
Ish, except for that is also built into the DNA of the Suicide Squad is that a lot of them don't make it out. But I do love the way he does the whole like, here's the team at the very beginning of the movie, and within the first 10 minutes they've all been wiped
95% of them are gone.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Javelin handing off his javelin to Harley Quinn. It's like, God damn it, if James Gunn doesn't get it.
I rewatched a little bit of James Gunn's interview with I forget it, Michael Rosenbaum. Former Lex Luthor from Smallville. He is close personal friends with James Gunn, so that is a really great interview and very revealing. I went back to see what he actually says about Superman Legacy. Yeah, because he does kind of, in Michael's to Michael's credit, he was trying to trick James into revealing.
Yeah, it's great.
Something, like
someone
so there is a crypto. Oh, so there is a Lex Luthor. Like, I didn't say that, Michael. Stop it. One of the cool things that he does get James to say is talking about the aesthetic of films and how he was talking about the visual aesthetics that they worked on for the Guardians films, and then he happens to mention after that, and then quickly changes the subject. It's like, a Superman Legacy. We're creating an aesthetic that hasn't existed before, so I'm really excited about that. Anyway, he moves on. Like, wait, better not get
An
lost in the
aesthetic
weeds
that
there.
hasn't existed before.
I think he's talking about a visual aesthetic. So he's
I'm just trying to parse what that could mean.
I know. He did talk about one of the reasons he loves the DC universe from the comics so much is that it's a little bit more like he compared it to Westeros from Game of Thrones, right? So that it is Earth, but it's an alternate, universe where we're instead of New York, we've got Metropolis and we've got Gotham and Star City and all these places that don't actually exist in reality. So it's a little bit more fanciful than Marvel in that respect.
Yes.
And he loves that aspect of it. So, and that may give us a little more clue to the sort of colorful,
which is the reverse of, again, the reverse of Nolan, who basically said, oh, Gotham's just Chicago because I don't want to deal with it.
Right.
So when you're looking around and going like, I know what building that is. He's like, shh, don't worry about it. We're in Gotham. Yeah, no, creating a metropolis, because Superman the movie, it's Calgary and parts of New York. And you're like, okay, but all right. Okay, I guess that's Metropolis, because that was 1978. But he could literally go in there now and create from scratch an entire city.
Mm-hmm.
With a LuthorCorp, LexCorp building and the Daily Planet. Oh, the Daily Planet. These things are so iconic. Some of the comics post New 52, no, actually, I think maybe New 52, they went a little bit further where they're like, well, why isn't Metropolis the city of the future? So even in the comics, they were making Metropolis quasi sci-fi, as in like it had levitating mag rail, like monorail type stuff, little floating flying drone vendors and things like that. And you're like, okay, so it's another step sci-fi, and maybe they'll be doing that, because in a world where you have a Mr. Terrific, where it's like, why don't I share my tech with the world? So, or Wayne Tech, maybe they're like going, yeah, no, we have flying cars. Maybe they'll have flying cars in Metropolis. I'm trusting James Gunn. It's like whether Superman is stopping a train that's on wheels or stopping a levitating train from crashing into, I'm all there. I'm there.
Yeah.
As long as Superman has red shorts.
Yeah.
Again, if he doesn't have the shorts, I walk.
Yeah.
And I'll say, you can keep my $12.50. Good day to you, sir. At which point the poor 21-year-old movie theater usher goes, I don't fucking care, man. I think he will do us right. I'm just very excited, and I can't believe it's coming out next year, and I can't believe it's going to be in the same month as Fantastic Four.
That's right.
Should I get a full-time job by then, which I welcome, I will have to let them know, don't block me in for that month, because that entire month will be repeated viewings of 2 films. I will see Superman at least twice in the theater. I will see Fantastic Four at least twice in the theater, maybe 3. And I hope you're okay with that. I'll have to tell my family, it's like, hey guys, Daddy has to go. You can feed yourselves, right? To my imaginary children. I'll just point and I'll go, that's the microwave mac and cheese. And Daddy's got to go. And then we understand, Daddy, it's Super Fantastic Month. It is Super Fantastic. That's what I'm calling it instead of Barbieheimer.
Yeah.
It's Super Fantastic.
That probably will be a thing.
It will save cinema. Suddenly Hollywood goes, thank you. All we had to do was a good Superman movie and a good Fantastic Four movie, and movies are saved. So let's wrap up because I'm getting hungry. Speaking of microwave mac and cheese.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot. I'm excited. Aren't you excited?
I'm very excited, man.
And
very
you should
excited.
be equally excited that I took the hit and saw Madam Web. You don't have to ever.
I know. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Brendan Jones.
It's the least I could do. Help me, Brendan Jones. You're my only hope. Anyway, so until next time, this one was pretty focused. We talked about 2 main things.
Yeah.
I'm really proud of us. We didn't digress as much. We did, well, a little bit of They Might Be Giants. We should do an entire episode about They Might Be Giants.
Yeah.
Maybe not an entire episode, but I love them. Until next time, everybody, I have been Brendan Jones.
And I've been Chad Smalley.
I love that. That's great. The thing that really